from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the Path.
Never once claimed that it was good.
Sometimes I go for candy after school.
You think sometimes is the way to start that? That isn't every time I go for candy after school.
You guys have any laughing taffy?
Make sure it's the saltwater taffy. I enjoy myself the artisanal taffies. That's exactly what that guy looks like.
Artisanal taffy.
I look like a guy that's a snobby fella, weighs 450 pounds, but still eats all the artisanal foods. Are these eggs cage-free? I'm going to eat a dozen of them. I just need to make sure they're cage-free.
I don't want to have to stop and read it halfway through.
Is this a heritage breed of pork? Because I'm really interested. If I'm going to eat the whole hog, then I need to make sure it was treated well.
Yes. I want to know this. I know he had a good family.
Did it have a nickname? I'll call it its nickname the whole
Ate
time.
his papa.
I
We
see.
ate his papa already.
I asked, was his mama good doing?
He always had to nurse.
Fat guy that cares about sourcing his food.
Hey, you're listening live from the Path. Thanks for joining us. Hey, if you only catch the audio, none of what we're laughing at is going to make sense to you. We're looking at the opening of the show, the opening credits visual of the show, and we're talking earlier. So we're talking about setting up a kind of a live event, which we haven't done for quite a long time, called how to run a radio show for 10 years. And not succeed by Live from the Path. Because I believe that our first show was the first or second week of March 10 years ago, so in 2009. And so I believe we have reached that kind of 10-year anniversary.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we got nothing to show for it.
No.
Literally nothing. We buy our own shirts. It's not like there's events that put our logos on things. Like we literally put our own logo on a shirt and then we pay for it through a third party.
Here's what we got. Here's where we're at. Here's what our success is. The thrift store priest is now here.
Okay,
Yep, absolutely.
We
Now we got 1 million hits on the YouTube.
so we do have 1 million hits
That's
on YouTube.
significant.
Yeah,
That's
1,000
like 1 million.
1,000 subscriber. Yeah, it was a million times. Someone took a look and said, well, 800,000 times someone said, I want to watch Caps for
And that's
Sale.
what I was just about to say. You and I both know that 3/4 of that plus is caps for sale.
Yeah, the
That's our
legitimate.
golden nugget.
Why
Hold
don't we republish that?
I'm gonna tell you right now, that is straight up proof that the attractional model of Christianity does not work.
Nope.
Right? Because what you think is we'll get them in the door with caps for sale, and then they'll click on some of our other Jesus stuff.
That's
That
not
don't
how it
happen.
happens.
That's
Not
not what
once.
happened at all. They watch caps for sale, they leave a profanity-laced comment about how crappy it is, and then they move on.
Yeah.
Yep, sounds about right.
All right, so yeah, that's what we have. I tell you what, maybe we'll put this thing together because that's what people who are unsuccessful do. We continue to invest, and we
should
say,
have an
you know
award
what?
ceremony.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Wait, what? What did I just agree to?
An award ceremony.
That is a good idea.
That's a phenomenal idea.
Hey, to be fair, we're the only ones getting awards.
Isn't
We're the
that what
guys on the show.
entertainers do? They get together and pat
That's
each other
right.
on the back and say,
That's true.
"Man, this is. Hey, would you sing for me?" I mean, what?
Yeah, we'll let Boova go extra windy on his acceptance speech.
Oh, man. Oh, you know I will, too.
You know, it took me so much to get here. You know, I took a 2-year sabbatical, really. I shouldn't even get a reward.
That's because Dan's vying for the man who makes it so we have to broadcast in color award. All right. Here's what we got going on the show today.
Mike gets best scorekeeper of all time.
Yes.
All right, here's what we got going on the show today. So I ran into a couple articles.
Oh, no.
Hey.
Are they lofty, Ben?
So no, not lofty. Where did they go? Doggone it. My life is.
I think they ran away.
My life is the garbage. Hey, did you know, Mike? We were talking before the show started about the Bible Project.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you guys have heard me talk about, like, I would say big, significant movements in my relationship with Jesus have generally been tied to interacting with teachers who, with some way or another, with teaching related to reverence to Scripture and the deepness thereof, like being able to take to explain or teach the Bible in such a way that it is impactful and it is deeper, and that I can understand it more. And so there were tranches of this, and the last one is tied to specifically Tim Mackey with the Bible Project. And so, if you've not heard of the Bible Project, it's a company, a group that came together and said, look, we just want to start, we want to help people understand the Bible. It's kind of a combination of like a Bible nerd and a guy who started a company making how-to videos. And so those guys came together and they said, look, and they wanted to start kind of explaining the Bible. And like it's extremely well done. Like the theology is really good. And it's just like it's all super interesting. And so
it does a great job of telling the entire story arc of the Bible, right? Like if you were to read all of Ezekiel, like the lay dude like myself gets lost in there, like with some of the language and stuff, and like why are people even upset right now? I just don't understand. Yeah, and it's really good about giving the Bible as God's story from beginning to Revelation, and showing what the story arc is of where God's heart is in it, and his relationship with his people and stuff. And they really do a fantastic job of looking the Bible as a whole, opposed to verse picking or even chapter picking. They're nailing the whole thing as a story, and it's always very, very well done.
Yeah. So anyway, I bring that up though because we were talking. So that Tim Mackey also created a podcast called My Strange Bible, where he was a pastor at a church and had kind of his old sermons and things that he'd been putting through on a podcast. He just finished up, like he's got everything in the backlog published. I would highly recommend going through that. There are a few of those that I've. The one on Jonah is just fantastic. Yeah. And so I would recommend starting with that one. Read just listen to like the whole set of Jonah. And if you don't dig that, you won't dig the rest of it. But if you dig on that, you'll dig on the rest. Anyway, the reason I brought that up though is I was interested to find out the reason they're in the place that they're in is they started making these videos and they basically said, look, we'll make more videos as if the last video pays for the next one. That's how they were going to do it. And so if it doesn't pay for the next one, we won't do a next one. And so they did a few, and it started like it was really good. And they got a call from Francis Chan, and Francis Chan says, "Look, I'm setting up this network of house churches, and I'm trying to figure out how do you help people who have not gone to seminary teach the Bible, and make sure they get it right. And what are some good ways to make sure people are having right conversations and understand right ways of reading and things like that?" And he thought these videos were doing a really good job, and he said, "You do the whole Bible." And they're like, we're kind of working on it, but it's going to take like 10
Whoa,
years.
Chan.
And so, and they kind of explained the principle and said, look, we'll do a next one when the previous video helps us pay for it. He said, basically, you have our support. Money is not going to be an issue. Whatever you need made up for the next video, you got it. Basically in perpetuity. And so it only took, they started kind of cranking them out, and now they're up to like 30 full-time employees. They said after only like a year, I think it was, that they became fully established, and then now they're not. They don't require any outside assistance like that anymore. But like it was basically the big leap was they were doing a good job, and a guy like Francis Chan jumped in and said, "Look, I think this is really valuable. We'll make sure the funds are there if you can keep cranking out."
Can you imagine that phone call?
Yeah, that would have been awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's Francis Chan. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you hang up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Francis.
Yeah,
Francis, you can give us a call on our complaint line at any point in time that you'd like to.
Why don't you go hang out with your friend Benny Hinn? Click.
Yeah, you can hear Francis Chan smiling through the phone. He's just a happy dude. That would have been so awesome. Here's the thing: both those dudes, solid. Just solid. I couldn't like them anymore. So, yeah, if you haven't checked out anything from the Bible Project before, it's fantastic for children. It's fantastic for me. I still love them. I think they do just the greatest job. They have some topical stuff on there, like understanding Messiah and stuff like that, and they just do a really, really good job.
All right. So anyway, stuff we got going on today. Hey, there was an article about pastor parking. Is going to be one of the ways to get church into paying taxes. Did you read that, Dan?
The pastor parking at hospitals?
I heard something about that. Yeah.
So this was from Christianity Today. It says, a new provision in the corporate tax code has some churches and other tax-exempt nonprofits wondering if they'll really be on the hook for paying a parking tax this year. 2018 was the first year nonprofits were subject to a tax of 21% on employee benefits, like parking and transportation stipends, under tax reforms passed by the GOP-controlled Congress the year before. The new tax is expected to cost nonprofits $1.7 billion over the next 10 years. That's not really too much, to be honest.
I mean, they already sneak in ways like we pay a property tax, although we're tax exempt, because we get rain on our property, and the rain goes into a rain tax.
Because you're using the sewers. Right.
So
There's a tax for owning the property that isn't just exactly, hey, it's the same property tax they assess everybody else.
right, I
Property
exempt for that,
usage.
but they just found ways. Well, because they don't charge residential the rain tax.
Right.
They can't get the churches.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, tricky. So anyway, experts suggest that many churches do not
Vanilla
meet the
tax.
parking tax requirements as described in an interim guidance released by the IRS in December, but evangelical groups have still rallied in opposition.
Yeah, that's the way to pull together for the right cause, boys.
As recently as last month, Southern Baptist Convention's Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission continued to lobby Congress to repeal what its president, Russell Moore, called a deeply un-American tax on churches.
I hate what we've become.
There has been a great deal of rhetoric, but no results. We now find ourselves weeks away from the tax deadline, while many elected officials seem to hope this issue will get lost in the circus of the daily news cycle. Well, it has. I suppose until now. The Evangelical Council for... I don't care about all this. So the question, I suppose, is... what's the broad stance, Dan? So like this has been floating around for a while. I mean, like ever since people got a hair up to say, hey, we shouldn't be letting churches go tax exempt.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I don't really get the full I don't grasp the full concept of it. I the first time I heard the reason churches aren't paying taxes, why they are taxes, in the Truth Project. There's a little piece there, and I need to hear that again because I was. It's really pretty philosophical. It's not like don't hurt the churches. It's because this is God's property. Well, you to tax God, basically. The concept behind it. I need to hear that again. First time I had heard that, and we've forgotten it. As I've forgotten it. Like been doing this for 100.
Yeah.
And no idea that was a situation about our American history, why we don't tax. So yeah, not a very good resource. Other than I know where I want to go. Hear that again.
Yeah. So I wonder. So if that's the case, I suppose what the prime question is that still true? Is that still where we're at as a country?
Well, it was kind of a thing that we're beyond the country. The church is beyond the country. So it's not even like we don't care if you believe that or not. I'm just praying this. It's been years since I've even heard it, but I remember.
I mean, that's fallible, I suppose, to the extent that everything God's.
Exactly. But this is like wholly set apart, saying purpose of God, opposed to road or.
I feel like the New Testament kind of blows that up a bit. In which case, I don't know if there's a ground to stand on.
I mean, if you want to fight this as an American, I get it. If you're like, hey, this is... I mean, if you want to say, hey, this is not what our country stands for, bubbity, fine. As a Christian, I think you should just let it go. Either pay the tax or park farther away or something. I mean, really.
So I'm not specifically asking, I suppose, about the parking thing. Because that's this only runs into a problem with the church if you like give a special spot for the pastor, like if you an employee.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise, like
I mean, the place is empty during the day. I mean, does that count as a benefit? You get to soak up the air conditioning. I mean, what do they count as a benefit? I mean, I suppose there's nothing wrong with having a 5,000 square foot place and one guy works there.
So specifically, this was the nonprofits were subject to a tax of 20% on employee benefits like parking and transportation stipends.
Oh, do some churches pay for the pastor's car?
There's a mileage allowance.
Oh, through the tax code, you mean?
Car allowance.
I mean, but that's true for anybody that has a job.
You're right. That's related to just being a private contractor, really.
Yeah,
like an independent contractor, which is essentially what the pastor is acting like. Interesting. Anyway. So I'm in a position to not worry about this, I guess. I wouldn't. So I would. Here's what I would say is I find this to be inevitable. I think churches paying taxes seems inevitable. I don't know if it's 10 years, but it's certainly 30. And I would say you can fight this all you want, but like two things are gonna degrade it. One is you have in order for the government to stay out of the church's business. I think they're going to have to start allowing themselves to be treated independently. And to the extent that there's an appearance that the government is doing a church a favor, one way or another, then I think you're going to have a hard time keeping them out of your business. Like once you're, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as the marriage discussion, right? When you're trying to define a church, if there's an institution that has a definition of what marriage is, and now you're up against a federal definition of what that is, one of the ways out of it is to basically say, look, we're stepping out of the conversation.
I mean, would you take that? Would you take that trade as a church? Would you say, look, whatever, we'll pay your taxes. Stay out of this business. You can't force us to do nothing. Deal? Like if they offered that as a solution and say, look, if you don't want us to force like federal guidelines on marriage on you, then pay taxes.
It gets, yeah, I don't think they'll do that because they'll do it on any business. They'll treat it like a business. But like it gets rid of all the Johnson Amendment stuff, like the stuff about politics and stuff. Like that's why churches, now we've had this conversation before, is like I don't know that many churches are actually adhering to whatever restrictions they believe exist about not talking things or having political candidates there. But like any business can have any political candidate show up and do it all. Like every politicians do it all the time. They show up and they get talks from Beto O'Rourke and the president. And so, like, if you're treated it like a normal business, then there's no reason to have to make an exemption for the church. So here's what I see that direction happening, where you're going to have to make a choice to say what the common argument will be: the church is getting a special consideration, and so that we have a closer foothold on certain things within the church than we do on, say, a private business. Which is true. That Johnson Amendment stuff doesn't apply to anybody else. Right? It's happening to churches because of those special types of things. The second thing that's going to happen is the duplicit nature of belief systems within America as they start to become more and more disparate. As certain things start to say, well, I'm a church. I'm a religious organization. Then you're going to have such a wide variety. And people are likely to do this intentionally to try to exploit the tax code so that it gets re-rendered specifically to keep out, because the government's not going to want to get in the business of saying this is a legit religion versus this is not a legit religion. Even most of the Americans are not going to want to get into that fight because it's going to be a very difficult one to have, and so they're going to call the thing off. And so, like I said, I don't think it's 10 years, but it might be 30. That I think ultimately you're going to lose that. And it might be nice to reach back, because I think now that Dan, you've said that, I've heard that before. I've heard someone make that argument before, very passionately, and it might even be, and it may very well be accurate. It has no bearing on where we're at today and what the political climate is, or what people's tastes are for belief in that, and the interaction between church and state. And so I think that's inevitable. And the only reason I say that is Christianity has certainly faced worse things, and so put it in your 20-year plan. You know, we expect that. As we start to pay off things, or we start to do X, Y, Z in our ministry, we think our costs are going to grow up incrementally by whatever the tax rate is, call it 5-10%, and just plan for it, and just know that it's there. And then if it doesn't show up for 50 years, great, you got a good kitty to go do something with.
It's the year of Jubilee. Turn it over. So, is there a distinct difference in the way that the way the tax code sees like a 401(c) corporation versus a church?
No, I think no. That they're in this instance, it's nonprofits in general.
Okay, gotcha.
It says a simple way for many churches to avoid the tax might be to remove any reserved parking signs for church employees, such as the pastor, since the calculation considers how many parking spaces are reserved for employees versus the general public. Take down the signs. The IRS said they won't be subject to the tax provision that went into effect on January 1, 2018. Pretty clear, Dan.
All right, we're good.
Now you're going to start seeing a reduction in the people that are willing to be called First Lady, because now you're paying for 2 parking spaces.
Now, we have some handicap spaces. I suppose we should be taxing them.
I mean, not unless they work here. It's specifically to do with whether you're employed.
What if you just painted a guy's face into space? Doesn't necessarily mean other people can't park there.
Can I call it the Boova space without it being explicitly for Boova? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Can you just say, you know who?
Yeah. Or put a sign that says, maybe Dan will park here. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean Dan will park here.
Sure would be a nice spot for Dan.
Maybe Dan will be here.
This would be a great spot.
Interesting. All right. Anyway, that one's gone.
That's weird. I got to be honest, that never crossed my mind.
What do you mean?
Just the whole...
The taxes in general?
Yeah. Yeah. I have put zero thought into it. I apologize. I'm not really prepared for that discussion.
Yeah, I haven't put a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't put anything into it. It's not going to happen. Besides a parking spot thing, but like, I don't know a lot of places that are still doing that. It's denominational, really. People reserving parking spaces for folk.
Yeah.
I like that. Maybe Dan will park here.
Poured hours of thought into this. Hours upon hours.
Okay. Let's see. There was another article that says when it comes to making impact, the more popular something is, the less likely you are to make a difference in it. I mean, that seems obvious, doesn't it? Like if it's people really dig on it, it'll be harder to change their mind.
That's
Or
true.
more popular meaning on when there's more people that believe in it, there's safety in the crowd. And so the main point of the article is to say, look, if you want to impact something, you should start with the fringes.
Yeah, I mean, you remember when people wore the hammer pants, and like once they got them, they're like, I love these pants, and the rest of the world's like, man, those pants are ridiculous. I don't see it, and you just can't talk them out of it. They got to fade out on their own. Ben's right.
Mike. So when you heard that article from Ben, first thing came to your mind
Hammer pants.
was the concept of the following of the hammer pants.
Yeah,
Isn't
isn't that wild?
That is numero uno.
Yeah,
First thing
I can't control how things fire
came
up
into
there.
your brain. Yeah, I relate to when things are more popular. It's very difficult to deal with them, especially dealing with the fringes of the hammer pants population.
See, I went straight to ice cream. I'm thinking that means like that's probably what you don't want to start with if you're going to go on a crusade against something. Everybody already likes it.
I thought about Fortnite, that game. Like that's the big popular thing right now. Ben, did you think about anything weird when you were reading that article? Did any kind of weird, either food?
No, mine was people. But I had already scanned the article. Mine thought like
You didn't think about hammer pants when you read that article?
No. I really thought okay, I thought about carnies.
Wait, did you say carnies?
Circus folk. Yeah.
See, fellas, I'm going to tell you point blank why we are about to do the how to do a radio show for 10 years and not really move anything on it. Because our four thought processes were carnies, hammer pants, ice cream, and some video game.
We can make a real difference in this world.
No, yeah, that's the point of the article. Hold on. Let's get on this.
Oh, man, let's take care of this hammer pants.
No one has never made a bigger impact on the world than Jesus. You don't even need to be a Christian to see the obvious truth in that statement. Because of this, I'm convinced that it's in the DNA of Jesus' followers to want to make a difference too. It's also in the Great Commandment and the Great Commission. Wanting to make a difference is embedded in the heart of every disciple. But how do we do that? With so many competing voices, so many areas of need, so many ways to approach this, how do we clear away the clutter and find an area of need where we can truly make a difference? We need to go narrow, not wide. To the edges, not the center. Work the fringes, not the mainstream. If everything you love is in the mainstream, normal pants, of the culture around you, it's very unlikely that you'll have much impact upon it. We have enough self-esteem books. We're overwhelmed with church growth ideas. We don't need any more personality tests. We need something else, and you might be the one to help us find it. Instead of trying to get in on the action of what's hot right now, find something you love that's on the fringes. Something important that no one else or very few are paying much attention to, then shine a big, bright light on it. This is where impact comes from. It's not that you can't like things that a lot of other people like. If you're an MCU movie fan, that's fine. Keep liking it, but don't let that define you. Boova.
What's MCU?
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh.
Nerd. Even
Hey,
within
nerd.
Christianity.
I was going to say, I was like, wow, I thought that might have been more common knowledge, fellas.
Hey.
Apparently, I'm just the nerd sitting over here.
And
You like the Marvel?
I mean, I knew enough to point it at Boova. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Even within Christianity, if the believers around you all love one style of music or one type of church service, feel free to enjoy it and be blessed by it. But look to the fringes for impact. Find a forgotten corner of need, of worship, of leadership, or of ministry, and fall in love with the people in it. Then learn as much as you can about them, work as hard as possible with them, make them the focus of your prayer life. You're going to have a huge impact if you focus on a forgotten but important corner of ministry rather than being just one more voice speaking from the mainstream to the mainstream. But here's the key. You can't do it just to take advantage of an overlooked market segment. It has to be something that you truly have passion for, something you love, people who matter to you, something that breaks your heart.
So if they're saying we should like start a polka worship if we like really love polka and we have a heart for the people.
Please don't invite me to
If
that.
you have a heart for polka people.
I mean, I got to be honest. I was super excited about this thing where we're like, look, just talk about what Jesus talked about, and then that's it. The rest of the God he's on the rest. He will handle this. And then dressing up as the polka man and meeting other polka people and being like, I'll hit you with the Jesus information. Maybe it'll matter to you because you ain't got nothing else going.
So the
Let's
polka
see.
people, they're
So-
singing about beer and stuff. They need Jesus.
So is this talking about like developing ministries?
Yeah, I mean,
Or is this ministering as a Christ follower to your circle of
I
influence?
think they're trying
or
to
what's
tell
the-
you to fish in a shallow pond without saying it. You know what I'm saying? They're like, ain't no one else fishing
I was
here,
gonna say, like,
and there's a ton of fish in
when
there.
it comes to develop. Well, I think when it comes to speaking to people about Jesus and spreading the word and things like that, I don't think you need to find some niche market for it. I think it's just talking in your circles of influence. Like the people that you're around, your family first and foremost. Then outside of that, where do you work? Where do you hang out at? Where are you at? What stores do you frequent where you actually have legitimate relationships? That's where you can speak as an authority figure to people because they have a personal relationship with you. Not like I have to go and start a Dungeons and Dragons group on Saturday nights and hope that they're not worshiping the devil. We can talk about Jesus.
That the rest of them are out on dates or something. That's not even a worry.
Hey, don't
with
judge
the Dungeons
us.
and Dragons
Don't
crew.
judge us. I have passion there.
No, Kyle will be here. No worries.
I know Kyle's gonna show up. Kyle, you don't have a date. Don't lie to me. Get here. No, I think you work within your circles of influence. Just what's around you.
So I remember that. I mean, we had that conversation once in a, I feel like in a church. It wasn't a staff meeting, it's like an elder meeting or something. And someone had asked, like, who's our market? And like, I couldn't get past that very thought. I'm like, I mean, everybody.
Right.
I mean, who's not? Who doesn't need to hear the word of Jesus today? Who's our market? And
I
like,
struggle with that. Yeah.
but there's a reality of what you. I think it's answering two different questions, Boova. So like, a church can generally be a thing. Like it can't be 50 things. Like it just can't. Like you're only putting on one service, for example.
Right.
For example, I think maybe you're doing a traditional and contemporary, but like that's a branch out into two things, generally defined by music style and what kind of robe you're gonna. But like, if you're talking like niche groups of people, it's not a corporate thing to solve. I would say though, Boova, back to your point, it is very much an individual thing to solve, and maybe the encouragement that I take from this is that is to not overlook it. When you're most likely to engage in what feels like the mass. Here, I'll give you an example. As this, and it is a corporate example, but it just occurred to me. I mean, of how many churches do Easter egg hunts? I mean, a ton. Everybody's like, wait, we're going to have this whiz-bang Easter egg hunt. Is it a good event? Sure. Does it bring the community in? Fantastic. Maybe meet some people and get them to come hear a little bit more of Jesus because they made a good relationship? Might. But like, yeah, I mean, if everybody's doing an Easter egg hunt, like certain groups of people are going to come to that Easter egg hunt, and you're just going to trade the groups around. And you might decide that this X church or Y church has the coolest Easter egg hunt. I mean, I'm not sure on the impact of that. Like some of that'll hang, but like those aren't fringe groups of people. And so the question is that like, are there groups, broader groups of folks that you may interact with? Now this is back to the personal level. Like I think everybody's got them. I think everybody has some connection or other to something that is a little niche. And the question is, have you unintentionally written some of that stuff off? Because I agree, it's your circle of influence. And one of the things that we risk is trying to use our circle of influence to dump people all into the same bucket when they are a little bit more unique. And so, like, let's use the varied nature of your circle of influence to its most varied outcome. It's okay that it's varied like that. It's okay that, like, hey, you know what? Not everybody's instant reaction is, hey, can you come into this kind of homogenous group? Because there's some people that just like it's just not their vibe, and it's going to take them a while to feel like it is. And then the family has a connotation or feels like a homogenous vibe, even if people are real varied. But like if you just say, hey, everybody in my circle that I have influence in, my gig is to try to get you to come to this homogeneous church service, like it's not going to work actually. Like there's going to be groups of people who are just not going to want to be in on that until it feels like friendship, until it feels like family. And so I think if there is a value here to say, don't write it off, like for what may be fringe in your life within your circle of influence. I think it's okay just to embrace it for that and call that for what it is, and recognize that like a lot of times there's less noise in those areas. There's not as many people doing Easter egg hunts.
I mean, who thinks that's not the case? Who goes, my reggae buddy's never going to hear me on this thing?
It's not I think it's unintentional. I think it's largely unintentional.
Well, that's dumb.
Right, but it still.
We had to write a whole article about it. Just shut it down. Stop acting that way.
Mike, do you have reggae buddies?
I love the newspaper. I like to just write one-sentence stories. This needs to quit. Love Mike. I'm going to start a blog post, Boova. Would you feel like you'd subscribe to that if I did?
I would 100% subscribe to that.
You're darn right you would.
But I'm going back to my question. Do you have reggae buddies?
No. Well, yeah, no.
Okay.
No.
I would be interested in meeting those fellas.
I got some friends of mine that really like Def Leppard, and I don't understand a lick of that. I mean, they're just terrible. they're just not good.
Like, do they hang out together, or do you just coincidentally have multiple friends who enjoy Def Leppard?
I tell you what, I've had to ride in some real long car trips with some fellas from work here lately, and the radio is a real problem. Like, it's just a real problem. Like, I get on a long car trip, I will fire up a bunch of my podcasts, and I'll listen to Tim Mackey for a couple, 3-4 hours or whatever, and on the drive. And these fellas, I mean, they're good dudes, but like, we just can't. We ended up settling on the Garth Brooks satellite radio channel. That's the only thing everybody can agree on.
It's a weird thing to come to in the middle of.
Right? I mean, there's
between
just
Tim Mackey and Def Leppard, right in the middle. Garth Brooks.
I mean, we tried that liquid metal station with the heavy rocking, and I mean, people can only tolerate that for a few songs. And then you go to the deep tracks of the Grateful Dead, and you're like, man, the Grateful Dead stink. These songs are awful. No wonder they're deep tracks. They're just bad. So, I mean, a group of more than, say, 3 guys, I think it's tough to find on a radio station.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Mike. Can you put that on that new podcast of yours, or that publication where it's just one sentence?
Here's the thing.
Can that be week 1?
We're 2 articles in of it, and just nothing's grabbing my attention. I'm floating all over the place. I can't think of anything of what you're saying.
It's all good. I'm still stuck on Hammer Pants, so you do you.
So I mean, I feel like it's possible that your attention is distracted, given that mistake that happened late last week.
I remember that.
And I just remember the text that you're like, I can't believe this dude. He keeps calling me Pope. I said, I don't know what that is. Is that some sort of weird name? But see, here's the deal: is I had put the wrong inflection on it because it was in a text. It's Pope. You had meant Pope, but I kept telling my wife, I'm like, I don't know why they're calling him Pope. It don't make any sense.
It makes me feel all awkward.
Yeah. Anyway, so you were saying that there was some guy that mistook you for.
Yeah, he did. And he was insistent upon that I give him some kind of papal advice. Otherwise, he wasn't gonna leave. And so I thought about it for a minute, and I realized that as I was talking to the man, that it struck me on how often Jesus goes off and prays by himself. I mean, for long, ridiculous stretches of time, right? To the point where even in there's one of my favorite verses that I was reading this week. There's one. It was in Mark 1, and Jesus had healed a leper. And then the next morning he gets up and he's gone. He just leaves. He don't tell nobody. He's out there in a mountain praying or whatever. Nobody can find him. And everybody comes out, and Peter finally gets him. He's like, hey, man, everybody's looking for you. And he goes, we should go to the next town. I got some other stuff going. And doesn't even address the fact that he left and didn't tell nobody, or that they had a search party out for him. He completely ignores it and moves on. And then later, it was in Luke, and I can't remember what chapter of Luke it was, but it says he was in somebody's house, and it says, and Jesus was praying by himself, and the disciples were with him. So even when the disciples were with him, he's out there praying by himself. He just could not give any more of a rat's of what's going on. He's talking, and so it got me to thinking. Like I felt like I wasn't looking at prayer right. Like I'm missing this for some reason. I have no pull inside of me that wants to sit down and talk to Yahweh for like even an hour. I'm like, I just feel like it's draining me. I mean, what are we going to talk about for no hour? I feel like I must really struggle with this. And so I was studying on it, and I was praying on it this week, and boy, I flat out came to the fact that I think Jesus got the right idea, and I don't know how many people actually do this and do it well, but like, I've tried to pray by myself, like even when the house was empty, that like all the people were gone, and I still cannot keep my mind from wandering. Like I can still hear that the window's open, and then I'm like, Lord, blah blah blah. Maybe I should shut the window. What if the heat turns on? That would be stupid. I should probably get up and shut the window. Or you hear the dog moving around. You're like, what? The dog took the toilet paper. I'm sure of it. That dog is eating the toilet paper right now. And so even with no people in the house, everything that I'm responsible for is within 20 feet of me, right? And I just cannot seem to get my mind to stop worrying about or thinking about the things around me. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought, man, maybe Jesus got this thing nailed. And I'm not a big, like, sabbatical in nature guy. Go out and just hang out in God's creation, let it envelop you. And I thought, I'm just thinking about it all wrong. Everything out there is God's problem. All that is his responsibility. None of it's mine. I don't control the wind. I don't control the clouds. I don't control the birds or the animals or anybody out here. None of this is any of my problem, right? So if I'm praying out by myself at a mountain or at a park or somewhere out in the middle of a field, and one deer runs into another one falls down, I'm like, I ain't responsible for these deer. I can go back to praying. It's none of my business, And I thought, I just feel like we like to set prayer up as this really heavy thing because it's powerful, right? Prayer has a lot of power in it. And because of that, I think a lot of complication gets attached to it. And it's nothing more than it's a spiritual conversation. You can't meet God at the Quick Trip. You can't say, Yahweh, I'll meet you at the Burger King. I got some things to discuss. You can't because he's spiritual. He's not physical, right? And so prayer is nothing more than a spiritual communication between a man or a woman and Yahweh. And that's it. And it's that simple, right? And so, like, I was thinking of, like, prime examples. If I'm standing in the middle of a crowded room trying to talk to my wife and we're not hearing each other, we walk out to the balcony. We go somewhere else and have the conversation. We don't stand there and go, oh, I guess we'll talk later. There's nothing we can do. Like
There's no solution.
That's dumb. That is dumb. So I think maybe overall I was trying to encourage myself and maybe encourage you if you struggle with the same thing, that, like, not more spiritual or more awesome to be out in the nature, right? You don't have to have the sunset coming up and have clever words from Isaiah roll into your head. That's not what it is. I'm having a hard time talking to God here. Maybe I should go somewhere else. Or sometimes you pull up to pray and you're like, I can't think of anything to say. Well, then just shut up. Just let Yahweh do the talking. Just be quiet. And you're like, I feel like I got to break the silence with something. No, you don't. But if you do, crank out the Lord's Prayer if you want. It's not, memorize it and use it when you're empty, and I will walk in and say, hey, woman, and that's it. And that's literally all I got to say. I could have skipped it. I could have not said anything to her because I got no follow-up. If she goes, hey, and then that's it, But it didn't stop me from talking to her in the first place. Just acknowledge I was there. And so I think overall what I was getting at, and my Pope-style advice to this guy that called me to Pope was whatever it takes for you to talk to Yahweh, do that. Do that, right? If you feel like you got a drone on if you got 5 hours worth of content, 5 hours it is. If you got 5 minutes worth of content, 5 minutes it is. None is holy. None is more holy than the other. If you look at Jesus' example, he does both. He goes out and prays by himself for very short stretches of time. Remember when the disciples had a demon they couldn't get rid of? And Jesus says, okay, I got this. And then he's like, these problems can only be solved through prayer. He wasn't there but like 2 minutes. As far as you're reading the story, he wasn't there very long. So he'll crank a prayer right out. Hey, Father, blah, blah, blah. Boom. Moving on. Couple of seconds here and there. Not a big deal, right? He's also gone for an entire night. It doesn't even mention, like, the next day and then he came back from the mountain of praying all night, and then they walked like 15 miles to the next town, and Jesus don't even care. He didn't find it draining, right? He's refreshed by it. He's moving on. And so, like, both are fine. Whatever it is, the conversation that you need to have, maybe I'm just encouraging you to have it. If you feel like you have to say, look, if I don't set it up at 5:30 every morning and fence in time for this, it'll drift away on me. Okay, we'll do that then if you feel like that's necessary. But it's not more holy than the guy that just does it, or does it for outside, or does it in his car. A lot of people like to pray in the car. To be honest, I find that a bit distracting. I'm glad I'm glad that you have found, because there's more peace in your car. Not as many things are breaking at once, right? Like your house takes a little bit more real estate, your apartment or whatever. There's more things going on in there. But in your car, I suppose it's a little bit more peaceful. You can control the time. So I get that. But I still think maybe we're all missing out on Jesus' time with Yahweh, right? Like, just by yourself, out in nature, or as close as, the prayer closet will work maybe if you find that helpful, but, like, just no distractions. And that doesn't mean, like, the quietest part of your house, because frankly, I just don't, you'll smell a weird stink in there. You'll be praying and go, man, something happened in the kitchen. Did I turn the stove off? Then you're gone. Yeah. Go somewhere where the earthly responsibilities aren't around you anymore, and give yourself some time to hear back, for you to talk and for Yahweh to talk back. People are like, I just feel like God doesn't speak to me. Well, the last time I checked, I could probably replay your last 10 prayers, and you're like, God, I like this, I thank you for this, I think this could change. I really wish you'd change this person because they're really starting to make me mad. Okay, love you, bye. And he's on the other side of the phone getting ready for a rebut. And you're gone. You're gone already. You're out. You're done. You didn't even give him a chance to respond. Not that I think you're going to hear some kind of crazy audible voice, but you give him a chance. Just spend some quiet time. Give it a shot. I'm terrible at this. It's not coming from a place of piety. It's coming from a place where I think it would be helpful. And Jesus' example paints he prays more by himself than the Bible records him praying with other people. He prays for other people, but it's recorded way more his prayers are on his own. So I think that is helpful. Get off my lawn. Obey.
I think that one of the biggest deals that that I run into is I have that same kind of problem with the paying attention to my prayers and things like that. And I always run through and I make it so corporate because my list is here are my thankful fors and here's my needs. And that's my prayer time with God. And the only reason I do it that way is because I feel more stuck up if I start with my needs
right.
than if I start with, hey, God, here's what I'm thankful for. And like the times that are actually like devoted to my prayer and devoted to spending time with God are when I'm being conversational. And when it's legitimately like, God, I know this seems foolish because you know everything, but let me tell you about my day. Like, let me just replay what happened with, let me tell you what I'm happy about right now. Let me tell you what I'm sad about right now. It's this weird moment. And I've only done this. I've probably had good, legitimate prayer less than a dozen times in my life. And the best times are when I'm just like, hey, Pops, let's have a talk. Let's sit down because I'm hurting and I'm in need. And I need to just sit down and chat with you. And it's when I take away from that, the thankful fors and the needs, and when I actually break it down into like, I'm getting a chance to talk to my dad. Like I'm getting the chance to talk to my father who wants a conversation with me. Let's just have that. And it's way more meaningful and it's way more refreshing. By the time I'm done with it, I'm just like, wow, I feel better. Like I didn't need an answer from this weird voice in my head. And I didn't need these crazy signs where my Bible started flipping around like it was windy or something. Like I just, it was nice to have you listen. It was nice to spend the time with you.
One of my favorite songs is because I don't ever approach God this way. Is by New World Son, and it's called "What You Want to Do Today," and that's the chorus. Is maybe this time I'll let you take the lead, and I won't try to drag you around by your sleeve because every time what is it? Either way, the whole point is like, so God, what do you want to do today, right? And like, when's the last time you approached prayer like that? Like, hey, I'm up.
Never.
So what's happening? You got anything going? What do you think? I mean, you show up with your list, your needs, your wants, your whatever, and your people around you. Half the time, I don't even know how to pray for them. And so, like, because, it's even Jesus, right, especially on the Garden of, before he's arrested, he's praying that this cup could pass from me and says, but not my will, but yours. And so, like, that's always stuck with me that I'm like, Lord, I really feel like this person needs a change of whatever. But I suppose if you think they're fine as they are, I suppose that's cool. I'm not really sure what to pray for here. You know what I'm saying? Like, should I wish justice upon him? Because in fact, I was talking to my wife about this earlier this week. Is the Psalms are mostly prayers from David, and sometimes you're like, boy, David, I feel like you're just asking for, for straight justice,
right?
Straight justice to be done. And like modern Christianity doesn't really hold that. We don't really hold much of justice. We're like, help me to forgive this person that's hurt me. Help me to find a better way to deal with them. And I look not 400 pages back, and there's David's like, just smite them. I'm done.
I like to see their eyeballs hanging out.
Right? Trample them underneath your feet, Lord.
I'm slightly disappointed you have not smited them yet. To be honest, Lord, I feel like you should have handled this already. And so it's a weird dichotomy because the Psalms don't provide God's commentary on what David is saying, although God does reference to be David as a man after his own heart. And so you go, I mean, sometimes God is a God of justice. God claims he never said he wasn't, right? In fact, he's the definition of whatever justice is because he said so. And so he gets to be that. But at the end of the day, sometimes I look at the whitewashed way that I pray and miss out on maybe some of the David heart and go, look, Lord, I want justice for this. That's what I want. If I'm okay having justice for this, then give me peace about that. If I'm not, and I need to find a more repentant angle to look at these folks, then give me that. But right now I'm on the David justice train. And I'm just gonna leave it there, and that's where I want to leave it. And I need you to help talk me out of it if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, And so it's just a more realistic conversation, right? Like we're missing out on if you break prayer down to the simple definition, is it's a spiritual communication between God and man. That's all it is. That is literally all it is because you can't meet him physically or at a coffee shop. So this is how we talk to him. And you got to give him time to talk back, and you got to talk to him like you mean it. Like Jesus, even before handing out the Lord's Prayer, he doubles out on some advice on you making a big deal of prayer. That's why I have such a hard time with prayer circles, right? Like it seems almost that you're praying to the circle than to Yahweh. And actually, to be honest, that problem's on me because that's what it sounds like to me. That's not what everybody else is doing. I'm sure. I mean, most people. There's some, but on the most part, we're praying together to a common God that we all share. And like, And you're sitting there worried, like, why is this pause going on for so long? When's the guy who's going to be the ender? There's always the guy in the circle that you know he's going to be the ender. I wish he'd just fire it up, but it makes it super weird. But at the end of the day, I think if you took a more honest approach to your prayer life and just looked at God for who he is, for what he's asking of you, and that you approached it with some honesty and some ways to actually have that conversation, not surrounded by your entire life, I feel like I would have a better prayer life than I do. Ben.
Yeah.
You're the ender in this prayer circle.
Actually, I think that's been a constant struggle. Because for me to get that type of isolation requires me to take extreme measures, right? Like getting up super early, staying up super late. And the truth is that like I just am involved in enough things that like those easily flow into those outliers. And so it's not it requires good habit and intentional stuff. I was talking with actually a couple guys over the last few weeks about how it's very easy for your life just to kind of float along. Like if you're doing a relatively regular job, you have a family, X number of kids, small number of friends, whatever. Like you could go 6 months and have not done anything intentional with your life. It has been carried along, and it doesn't mean it's been carried along poorly. If you set your life up well, so that you have good influences around you, church family, and a job that does something that's worthwhile, and you're trying to raise your kids and you're participating in your marriage, it doesn't mean that your 6 months were wasted or that they're wrong, but like it does mean that you can 6 months can go by and you may not have actually sat and said, look, I'm going to do this or that thing. It's just carried on. And in some ways that's beneficial. It's beneficial to me, for example. It keeps me out of trouble because of the commitments that I have to my wife and kids and my job and my church. I don't have a lot of free time to do anything else to get myself in any type of in problems. So it's not like they're bad fences. But it also means, it makes me think back to this peripheral targeting business, is that like things will move as they move. And so where things could otherwise change for the better, you have to be intentional. And so to the extent that you're not, it doesn't mean the things that you're doing are wrong, but it does mean that they won't actually change for the better either. And focused prayer, committed prayer, is something that needs to change for the better, and that's something that I have to do and be real, I guess just intentional.
I mean, and to be fair, like the thing that you said is like you'd have to set it up early in the mornings or late at nights or whatever, is what Jesus did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's gone. We got up early. And I actually thought about my example of getting away from your responsibilities to go out to pray in the nature or whatever. It makes it sound like Jesus bailed out of Martha's house early so he didn't have to make the bed. That's not right. That's not what happened.
I got more important things to do.
I got to go. Someone else make this bed.
I like, what I really love about those stories about Jesus is that like it's interesting where the Bible provides commentary on how the disciples react to certain, sometimes where they don't, and you're like, really? Like, is this normal behavior? That's the problem, is you start to get a good historical perspective, and you recognize that some behavior is normal or has some sort of context to it, and so then it starts asking you a bunch of questions where it's not clear, where they see him he's just gone, and I'd be like, what the heck, man? Like did they say what the heck? Or they're like, well, he's gone. Oh, there he is up on the up on that mountain there.
Yeah, he praying all night again. He shows back up refreshed after 12 hours of praying, and everyone else is just dying.
And like you have a number of examples where the disciples seem to be talking about something, and Jesus is like walking ahead of them, and like I just, you get the impression that it happened way more than the Bible documented. Like the time where he said, "Hey, more people are coming out." He's like, "No, we're going to go to the next town."
Yeah,
and he's like 10 steps ahead, and they're like, "Hey, man, he's going to keep doing this because this is weird."
Yeah,
there's more people coming. What are we going to tell those people? They're just going to be gone. It's like, well, they're going to be upset with the brand.
Yeah,
they're going to hate Jesus because he just left town.
Yeah, they were gonna beat on him or something, and he like slipped out,
right.
Or he hid somewhere. I mean, it's just funny to think of Jesus hiding behind a rock around and then moving on to the next rock like a Scooby-Doo cartoon.
All right, so given our recent conversation, we're gonna take a quiz on prayer in the Bible.
Oh boy,
prayer in the Bible. Number one, God spoke to. Oh, hold on, camera's focused on Mike.
Abimelech.
Did you say Abimelech?
Abimelech.
Okay.
Abimelech. God spoke to Abimelech and told him that Abraham would pray for him and he would live. A. B. Prosper greatly in every way. C. Develop leprosy, which will stay in his family forever. Or D. Dip in the river 7 times and be healed. Okay, so it's not D.
Is it prosper greatly in every way?
Wasn't it live? This is over the Sarah business, right? Where he had captured Sarah because they tried to lie, and Abraham said it was his sister. And
Now I feel it's live. It's simple. Live.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards
I don't
that, too.
remember saying prosper greatly in
I'll
every way.
trust you guys because I was thinking leopard.
That's pretty bold.
2. Why did Isaac pray to the Lord for his wife Rebekah? Because she was barren? Because she had leprosy? Got that on the brain? Because she had been bitten by a snake? Because the king had chosen her to be his wife? Barren. It's gotta be barren.
Yeah.
I don't remember. She wasn't bitten by a snake, or chosen by the king, or had leprosy.
Well, Baron then.
Okay. 3. What did the priest Eli think when he saw Hannah praying?
He's
Thought-
drunk.
Yeah, thought she was mad, thought she was drunk, thought she was holy, thought she was having a seizure.
I think that woman's holy.
Look at the holiness on
Look at
that.
that prayer.
That holy
She's not distracted a bit.
Look at how holy she is.
She got up early for something.
She already made her bed.
When Elisha prayed for his servant and the Lord opened the eyes of the servant, what did he see? 1, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse riding towards them.
Ooh.
2, he saw men as trees walking. 3, a mighty army was descending on them. 4, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha.
Yeah, it has to be.
It's,
Four.
it's chariots of fire, right?
What was the tree walking? That was when Jesus healed the blind man. Yeah.
Yeah. 5, when Elisha had prayed for the child of the Shunammite woman, what did he tell his servant to do? A, see to it that the flesh of the child became warm. B, walk to and fro in the room. C, count how many times the child sneezed. 4, call the Shunammite woman.
Like it was called a Shunammite woman.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm gonna need you to walk to and fro in here. Yeah, why?
I know that y'all are gonna laugh at me like this, but for some reason I'm thinking it's the sneeze thing.
Count the sneezes?
I really I don't know why, but I'm really thinking that's it.
Yeah, go ahead, hang that around Boova's neck. Put the
I'm
sneeze down.
I'm fine with it. I don't know why, but for some reason I really think that's it.
All
Nope.
right. On a
You've
firm
just-
test of Boova's intuition,
Yeah.
we're going with count how many times the child sneezed.
We'll see how the Holy Spirit speaks to you.
You just bought yourself an albatross, friend.
6, what did Elisha pray for the Arameans when they came down against him? 1, that God would strike them dead. 2, God would strike them with blindness. 3, that God would show him a way out, even although there was no way. Or 4, that God would hobble their horses. Been a while.
This who?
Blindness.
Elisha,
And Arameans.
Arameans.
Armenians.
I think it's the blindness.
Yeah, I'm going blindness.
Struggling with blindness? Okay. 7, what did God do in response as Hezekiah wept to God in prayer? Healed
Give
him,
life.
killed his enemies, raised his child from the dead.
What was it?
Hezekiah?
Hezekiah healed him,
Oh, healed him.
killed his enemies, raised his child
Killed
from the dead.
him.
Yeah, I killed him.
I
I killed
Healed
his
him for 7
enemies.
more
I
years.
killed him. Healed him.
Okay, healed him.
He's
8,
my landlord.
what did the Lord do when Job prayed for his friends?
Laughed at him.
1, sent his friends away. 2, brought more of his friends to comfort him. 3, restored his friends and gave them twice as much as they had before. Or D, 4, restored the fortunes of Job and gave Job twice as much as he had before.
Final.
D.
Yeah, that's a D.
Yeah.
Times?
Was it 10 times? That was twice.
Significant.
I thought it was 7. I'd have to read it again.
We're going with the last one. 9, who responded to Daniel's prayer of confession?
I think it's a trick.
The Lord himself, the angel Michael, the angel Gabriel, the king Darius. Prayer of confession.
Whose prayer?
Daniel.
Prayer of confession? Would
Uh,
that be the king?
That was he prayed for the confession of the country.
that
We're
what-
a
is
bunch
that
of
what they mean?
sinners, and we're
That's what I'm-
sorry.
Because Darius was the one that was crazy and then came back, right?
No, that's Nebuchadnezzar.
no, Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Darius threw him in the lion's den.
Yeah.
I think it's a lion, didn't Darius? Wait, no.
So who responded to the prayer of, which I knew what they meant?
read that again.
Who responded to Daniel's prayer of confession?
It was Michael, Gabriel, God himself, or the king.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Gabriel.
Is that the one
No,
where he
it's
sent the
Wait, it's Daniel 7.
when he sends the messenger?
Daniel
and
7
he gets,
is the
and he gets
prophecy,
held,
isn't it?
9.
and where he gets held up. Is that the deal?
Yeah,
is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up for 2 weeks and
Yeah. It's
it's the
the
partial fast, the Daniel fast.
it's the reference of prayer of confession that's
Yeah.
tying me up here. Okay,
was
we'll go with
Angel
Angel Gabriel. 10. Where was Jonah when he prayed to God?
In the belly.
On the wharf at Joppa, in the boat about to be thrown in the water,
Long John
on the
Silver's.
road to Nineveh, in the belly of the fish.
Belly of the fish.
I mean, Longview, the road to Nineveh.
Yeah, I mean, he ran from the wharf at Joppa specifically away from the Lord. In the boat, he refused to be. In fact, the foreigners prayed to God. He did not. In the boat, about to be thrown in the water. Belly of the fish. Okay, here we go.
Worried about them.
Oh.
Down to failure.
Oh,
Oh, how
no.
bad.
Question 1. God spoke to Abimelech and told him that Abraham would pray for him and he would live. That answer is correct.
Yes.
Question 2. Why did Isaac pray to the Lord for his wife, Rebekah? We said because she was barren. That is correct.
Yep.
Question 3. What did the priest Eli think when he saw Hannah praying? We said that she was drunk. That answer is correct.
Man, I feel great about this.
Question 4. When Elisha prayed for his servant and the Lord opened the eyes of the servant, what did he see? We said the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. That is correct.
You're darn right it is.
Question 5. When Elisha had prayed for the child of the Shunammite
Oh,
woman, what did he
man.
tell his servant to do? We said, count how many times the child sneezed. That is incorrect.
Oh, no.
The correct answer is call the Shunammite woman.
Like an albatross.
You know, fellas, I feel like after years of doing this stuff, you should stop trusting me.
I mean, here's the deal. I even changed it back to call the Shunammite woman, and I thought
That's probably better.
that's
better idea.
That's good. That's not
What
fair.
am I? Is
we
there
agreed as a
anything?
group. We're going down as a group.
What am I thinking of? Like there was a resurrection of someone
I
that.
think that's Veggie Tales.
Yeah.
No, okay, no. So I'm obviously the sneeze is wrong, but like I feel like
You mean the major part of the answer? Yes. The sneeze is incorrect.
I for some reason thought that was the right answer. I
No,
don't
I-
know why, but I gotta look at because I feel like there's a resurrection story.
I'm not interested in the motivation on why you got it wrong, Boova.
Yeah, I also think Batman is real and chicken fingers are low calorie.
You guys don't understand. I was
No,
sure
but I
it was
do
right.
believe that chicken fries should just be called chicken fingers. You ever seen those things? They look exactly like chicken fingers.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
Lazarus sneezed and the stone rolled back and
You know
That's
what?
right.
Hammer pants. Keep going.
Why were you sneezing? It stinketh. All right. Number 6. What did Elisha pray for the Arameans when they came down against him? We said that God would strike them with blindness. That is correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Question 7. What did God do in response as Hezekiah wept to God in prayer? We said healed him. That is correct. Question 8. What did the Lord do when Job prayed for his friends? We said restored the fortunes of Job and gave Job twice as much as he had before. That is correct. Question 9. Who responded to Daniel's prayer of confession? We said the angel Gabriel. That is correct.
Wow.
Question 10. Where was Jonah when he prayed to God? We said in the belly of the fish. That is correct.
So what
9 out
you're
of 10.
saying is, what you're saying is, fellas, that when we did this quiz, we were pretty spot on,
Yeah.
and we got one wrong,
Yep.
one specific
we're not going to point that out.
question wrong.
I'm gonna
And
need
there
you to count
seemed
the
to-
sneezes. So the
There
kid.
seemed to be an obvious joke answer that was put out by creator of this quiz,
by a funny man.
and a fellow funny man recognized that and went, I dig on those sneezes.
Yeah.
You know, I think we all learned something today.
You
I
got
think we did.
got smote by an 80-year-old KJV only quiz creator.
I think
He hooked and reeled you in and is laughing.
I think we all learned something today, and I think that's the more important part of us getting 100%.
Welcome back to the land of the living. Now count his sneezes
Achoo.
in case it gets out of hand. He
Seven-
might have
Make
the
sure he
death
didn't
again.
get resurrected
That's
with a
right.
cold.
He's got 7 sneezes. He's still dead.
The Lord brings him back to life, only be taken down by the common cold.
Use
What
some
a
balmy
Man,
spices
that
and
would have been a
nasty.
big deal back then, Mike. You never know. They didn't have modern
Who
medicine.
put the jalapenos and the
Oh,
balmy
man.
spices?
Achoo!
I think there's too much pepper in here. This kid, he's having a hard time.
You know, tired.
Should I call the Shunammite woman?
No, count his sneezes.
No,
Don't tell us. Don't tell
The
his
answer-
mom.
That's right. Don't tell his mom there's too many sneezes. Wait till
Only
it
if he
calms down.
sneezes 7 times.
Either walk back and forth in the room,
Oh,
call
man.
the Shunammite woman,
Get that dead man a Kleenex.
or count those sneezes.
He's grossing all over the bed.
You know what? Kill him again.
I can't put up with all this
I
sneezes.
can't deal with these sneezes.
He's obviously in misery.
How unsanitary.
All right, now we answered total of 9 out of 10 questions correctly for a score of 90%.
Buddy.
So close, but missed it by a sneeze. This
How-
quiz has been taken 32,000 times since October 12th of 2004, and the average score for this quiz is 69%.
See, we did way better than the average.
Yeah, that's true. They must have 2 Boovas on their team.
I pray for anybody who has 2 Boovas on their team, Mike. I feel terrible for that family.
They just comedy all the time, the Boovas.
Oh man, did you hear that one about the sneezes? Oh yeah. Pick that one.
I
It's
got
gonna
a
be
feeling
funny.
on this one.
You know, would we really be doing ourselves a justice if we would have got 100%? Our heads would have gotten too big.
Oh yeah, not like the guy who says it's the sneezes. I'm sure of it.
I
I don't
just-
know.
I got a
There's,
feeling.
This is
there's
this is
something in
the
me.
this is the 3 seasoned fellas in the room that followed the guy that said the sneezes.
No, okay, now that is a valid point. That is, yep, that's problematic.
Should we trust Boova's intuition? No.
No.
We've been doing this show for almost a decade. You know, no. The answer is no, always, Mike.
All right, we got time for one advice. Ready?
Yep.
Dear life from the path, my husband Joe and I have been married 45 years, and he drives me nuts.
Yep.
I've asked him countless times to use better table manners, speak proper English, and treat others with respect. I'm not asking for perfection.
Those are 3 big things.
I know I'm not perfect, but if someone pointed out something I was doing incorrectly or that embarrassed someone, I'd change what I was doing. Besides asking nicely, which I always do as to not belittle Joe, what can I do? It's hard to ignore. Okay. What if Joe said, "Stop pointing out the bad stuff I do"?
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you try quit doing that?
Speak proper English. Who did you marry?
Okay. I'm gonna. Here's my official. This woman needs to go to a neurologist because there's obviously some dementia setting in. Been with this guy for 45 years. 45 stinking years.
Mhm.
And now suddenly she's like picking at him. Something's wrong. She's not healthy. She's sick. She needs help.
It's really turning south on her.
She
Yeah,
married a
yeah.
man who calls himself Catfish.
Maybe it's not dementia. Maybe she has hemorrhoids. Maybe she has arthritis. I don't know. Something is making her upset. And it's not her husband. That's just an excuse.
Hemorrhoids, huh?
Yeah, I don't know.
She
Does
may
that
have
do it?
hemorrhoids.
It would do
This
it.
guy doesn't have bad table manners, horrible etiquette, and speaks broken English.
You know, really, you're right. After 45 years, it's a little hard to say.
That's
I've
the
asked
truth.
him countless times to use better table manners. I'd have given up after year 20.
Yeah.
I've
You
been
know?
with him for 45 years, and I just now realized I married a Creole chef. What's happening?
That's right. Old Catfish just puts his elbows on the table. Ain't nothing you gonna do.
What I do to Claire. It's like,
I mean,
Catfish, what you talking about?
the kids are gone. The grandkids are gone. The dogs have all died. I
Yeah.
mean, there's nothing. It's just you two.
Yep.
I mean, get over it.
She just sitting in a corner scowling at him the whole time.
Yep.
Get your TV tray out and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
You ain't coming to dinner, woman. Catfish ain't wearing no pants.
It's etouffee.
Yeah, I mean, just get a dog so that something is less offensive than your husband.
Yeah, train your
At least
dog.
he's not drinking out of the toilet.
Yeah.
Like that guy.
Speak proper English. I'd really want some examples. there.
Actually, that reinforces the potential that he's a Creole chef.
That's what I'm saying.
Ho, ho, ho. Joe, I told you, we're not going to do that at the table.
Why did that happen?
We got
I
shrimp
see
and etouffee, baby.
I ain't wearing no pants. Ho, ho, ho.
Catfish, why you wearing them pants with the chili peppers on them? I spicy, baby. I spicy.
Yeah. Where'd you get that catfish name tag? I bought it on Amazon. Ho, ho, ho.
Why is he doing that?
He's 45 years. There's got to be something throwing it over the edge.
Yeah, we've been married for 45 years. You haven't done that. Oh, now I do. I'm adding to the character of the relationship, baby.
My wife would be thrilled if that was the only stuff wrong with me.
Right, forget this gal. This guy seems awesome. I want to party with Catfish.
I'd like to date this guy myself.
This guy seems great.
He seems like a laugh a minute.
All right, so I think to sum up the advice, the ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you've been
too
married for half a century. Close to.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Is way too late.
That was the question. What can I do?
Another-
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Out catfish the catfish, I guess. Yeah. I mean, start farmer snotting out in the kitchen. I don't know.
Right, put your knees in the salad and see what goes afterwards.
All right. Secular says, after 45 years, you should have come to the realization that you cannot change another person. For the sake of your sanity, learn to change the way you react to your husband's poor table manners and bad English. Because he's a sloppy eater, consider eating with him less often. No, I can't take this catfish. I don't care.
Catfish got too many friends. I don't care.
Because he's a blah blah blah. Because his grammar isn't up to par. Try to remember that you married him this way, and he managed to get the words "I do" out well enough to satisfy the officiant. As to his disrespect for other people, the next time it happens, don't ask him to cut it out. Tell him.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
Hey man, Dan, have you ever had someone say something different than I do when instructed? Like what was the noise?
Usually they're nervous enough. They'll just do whatever. They'll just say whatever.
They'll just say whatever you tell them.
Yeah.
Do you take this woman? Oh. Like,
Let me wait for sneezing.
Catfish takes what catfish wants.
all right, you made the mistake of listening to Live from the Path. Hey, if you're just joining us from that Tim Mackey podcast, just know that he gave up after 10 years, not us.
We're smarter than that.
We're still cranking out the hits over here. But if you want to complain about the show, I mean, God bless you for your free time. Maybe you should pray to the Lord on that thing. You got time to do that. But otherwise, you can give us a text or a phone call, 515-517-0085. That is not a live line. No, there's no one. The thrift store priest is standing here, but his hands are occupied. So, I mean, no one's picking that up. So you'll be leaving a message or shoot us a text, but that's the complaint line, 515-517-0085. We do thank you so much for listening to us on the show, especially if you've been hanging out for that full decade. We'll invite you to the show, to that thing we're going to put together if we ever do that, and you have the seat of honor. Congratulations.
Eat Chinese food again.
Yes, that's what we need. Is we only ate out for Chinese when we were having to try to court a advertiser.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's do a buffet night.
Yeah.
We'll invite people. It's Dutch treat. I mean, come on.
That's sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, we'll see you when we see you. In the meantime, be faithful to means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.